Greetings adventurers, this is another iconic archetype build with GM Comfortable Gray. Today we're talking about the Ranger Beastmaster, but first is my great privilege to thank Alex Schramm, Chris Wagner, Daniel Hicks, Dan Tyree, James Graves, Lee Farbstein, Noble, Ralcor, Sneeze, The Great Hoopla, The Horse Force, and Zachary Fielstra. I appreciate all of you patrons on Patreon for your contributions making content like this, as well as all of my TTRPG sessions possible. With no further ado, let's continue with this character. I looked at this art, and then I looked at the display of species I currently had available for my iconic archetypes, and I saw that I didn't have any Aasimar, and I saw that this is a blue-skinned character. Could be a tiefling, or maybe it's an Aasimar. So that's what I did. After making the build, I decided to make them a small Aasimar. Humans and Aasimar can kind of decide what their character size is, and this does have some implications. I'm mostly just doing this to show the possibilities with the animal companion, but you can really make a medium character instead. It's not going to be too big of a difference. You have the base 30-foot speed, and then celestial resistance, to necrotic and radiant damage. It will only occasionally come up in many campaigns, but in other ones it could be reoccurring. You have dark vision to 60 feet, which is just nice to have. Healing hands is once per long rest, save a life. This is really your character stepping in for another player character, or maybe it's going to have a narrative benefit. On occasion you might use it on yourself, but for the most part this is just a low grade heal once per day. You know the light cantrip, which I think was debuffed because rules as written, you can't cast it on a held object, so you can't cast it on your friend's sword and make it glow. They need to put it down first. Weird interaction there. So this is a largely inconsequential, but still beneficial thing, even though your character has dark vision. Then Celestial Revelation comes online at level 3. It is a bonus action, there's some competition for it, and it only lasts 1 minute per day. So you really only use this once per day. This is kind of like your Nova option. It used to be that you would select one and that was what your character was going to stick with, but now you can choose it day by day. So you're either going to get a fly speed of your speed, and you're a ranger, eventually it's going to be a good speed. You get inner radiance for a little bit of area of effect damage, a little bit of a glow. And honestly, I feel like that guaranteed radiant damage is quite powerful. Or Necrotic Shroud, which is more of a fear effect. It's just control. It is a soft control, but still very usable. And it looks really cool. All of these are very flavorful, and you don't see this art showing that, but I think the Necrotic Shroud is probably one that we're going to use most of the time, because the best mount you can have in this game is either a player character or this animal companion. So once we get to that level, it's going to make sense. Eventually, this character is going to be quite skilled, but for a certain type of balance aspect, I'm going to be making this a 15-15-15 character. So we're going to have 8 strength, 15 dexterity, 15 constitution, 8 intelligence, 15 wisdom, and 8 charisma. This character does 2 things really well, all the dexterous stuff and all the wisdom stuff, and then they're going to be fairly tough at the same time. +1, +1, +1 from the background, which, for good ranger backgrounds, we are once again coming to the guide. Unless you can use a custom background that shoehorns you into having the magic initiate for druid, I'm going to do it. I'm going to say that you can do custom background. There's a lot of support that by 2024, just the player's handbook, that you can just do custom background. But in the Dungeon Master's Guide, there's a really discreet section where they say you can use custom background. I've already used guide a couple times. It has happened because we had to have dexterity and constitution and wisdom respected for the character. I do know that there's like a shillelagh build. There's also a true strike build for rangers. I'm trying to avoid that. So we're just going to take lucky. It's going to be the default for a lot of different choices. Of course, also stealth and survival are really obvious choices to have as a ranger. So you can't really go wrong by choosing guide anyway. But this character, in the art, has scimitars, so we wouldn't use shillelagh, those things. So I would just take guidance, elementalism, elementalism perhaps, druidcraft perhaps. A lot of good options for it, but if you're taking guide, have fun with the cantrips. Those are more for flavor because your basic dexterity based attacks are going to be so much more effective and probably even longer range than using a cantrip. For first level spells, Good Berry is the first choice. You can take Jump, you can take Fog Cloud, or Entangle, also very beneficial. In the 2024 edition of Dungeons & Dragons, both Rangers and Paladins now actually get spellcasting at level 1. That's a big difference, so let's look in at level 1. We're focused on Scimitars. Although this character will have a secondary usage for longbows, most of the time they're going to start the fight with longbows. And the way that every time you attack, whether it's the additional attacks in an attack action or not, you can draw a new weapon. So your character could draw their longbow, make an attack with it, and then make it a second attack at level 5, and then draw one of their scimitars, and then on their next action, they're going to be able to draw the second scimitar and make additional attacks. So it's not going to be broken action, economy-wise, just for that reason. It's a big improvement from 14 to 2024. You're going to have a Dexterity and Wisdom as your primary abilities. We have those maxed. A D10 hit die, so you're going to have a little bit more hit points than the Cleric, but not as much as the Barbarian. Your saving throws proficiencies are Strength and Dexterity. These actually come up fairly often at lower levels and not so much at higher levels. Especially Dexterity, very common. For skill proficiencies, you get 3. Rangers are one of the skill monkey classes in the game. You already have Stealth or Survival most likely, so Perception, great choice. Athletics and Animal Handling, and then Perception, Animal Handling, and Athletics are also very good flavorful choices because we're going to be going to a Beastmaster eventually. Weapon proficiency in simple and martial weapons, as well as light and medium armor and shields, means that when you want to, you can have a really good defense. You're going to have more dexterity than you need for the medium armor, and any weapons you want, and also weapon mastery. We're really just focusing on the scimitar and longbow weapon masteries for the calculations some weeks or months from now. And then we're deep into spellcasting. Now, you can actually change your spells known like in the previous edition, where you had to stick with them. That little type of quality of life thing really improves the general class for Rangers, especially in my opinion. I feel like it means that you can make those decisions low and then trade them out so you only have 1 or 2 low level spells and a lot of variety for your higher level spells. This is a half caster, so it's not the biggest deal, but you can change these every long rest. You can, if you know what you're facing, and the whole Ranger spiel is about gathering information and being ready, scouting, discovering things for yourself and the party, you should be choosing the best spells possible for what you're going to be coming up against. Despite that, I'll still mostly just be focusing on Ranger-specific spells. I just think that that's the most important benefit from here until we get to a much higher level. Then I think I'm going to need a second video just for that. So, level 1 after spellcasting is Favorite Enemy. You always have the Hunter's Mark spell prepared. There's some umbrage people have against the Hunter's Mark spell. I really think it's okay. I prefer Hex over Hunter's Mark. Neither of them is ridiculous. But the basic Hunter's Mark, if it could be used to target against an enemy's tracks or something else, I think it would be a little bit cooler and people wouldn't mind it as much. But either way, with Hunter's Mark, that's mostly going to be for improving your damage or chasing enemies along the way. It does require you to defeat the enemy before you can change the target as a bonus action. But also, because you get so many free castings on this and a couple of spell slots you can also spend, when I'm calculating it, I'm going to treat it as though Hunter's Mark is on the sustained damage option, because you probably can do it for the majority of fights you're facing if you really wanted to. Other standout spells are of course Good Berry. Also, Ensnaring Strike is a solid Ranger only spell. The fact that you can essentially grapple enemies from afar, very powerful, and the small possibility to do some extra damage. Ensnaring Strike, it would be foolish to ignore this. It's essentially a Battle Master ability. Hail of Thorns is going to be your area of effect damage for a decent amount of time. It feels fun. It looks really cool, whether you flavor as your character, firing a single arrow and then splinters off into its thorns, or maybe you knock a bunch of arrows and then just That's the flavor, but you really only spend 1. Hail of Thorns, really cool spell. I do find that the damage tends to be a little bit underwhelming for a while. At level 2, you're going to get Deft Explorer, very interesting ability that the Rangers get. You get expertise in 1 skill and an additional proficiency. Then you also get 2 languages. I think it's interesting that it doesn't get languages. I really wish I was fluent in more languages IRL. So I think it's cool that just a 2-level dip you can get that. But it's really the expertise on perception, on stealth, on survival, on animal handling. All really good options, but perception probably the one you're going to be the most happy to have. And then at level 2, we're going to take our fighting style. It's going to be 2-weapon fighting. This is obviously a dual-wielding character. And that's going to mean that all of our scimitars are going to be doing the same damage. That might simplify the math, it might not. You can do other weapons with your 2-weapon fighting. You can always change your weapon mastery. So there are a lot of choices to make here, but we're going to be going straight through as quickly as possible. Level 3, Beastmaster. This is a half caster, so you're still only 1st level spells. Take the ones you want. Again, at long rest, you can change it whenever you want. But there's the Beast of the Land, the Beast of the Sea, or the Beast of the Sky. I will just mention that there's an option for the Beast of the Sea. Maybe if you had a stronger character, you could pick them up and you could be their mount. It's a little funny thing having your octopus grappling people around, but it's more of a meme type of build we're not focused on here. In this art, there's very clearly a Beast of the Land, this spirit tiger, which is, I think, pretty dope looking, honestly. So that's what we're going to use for the most part. I just want to say, for Beast of the Sky, you can kind of finagle it so that the Beast of the Sky can pick up your small ranger character. They can't really mount it. It's not like a flying mount, but they can still pick you up and move you around, like actually like muscling you around. And there's a lot of power in being able to fly with no concentration at level 3, especially because your character is going to have a great dexterity, hunter's mark, solid damage. Rangers do excellent in tier 1 damage, and then they kind of have to get a little bit more creative. This is also the tankiest companion anyone's going to have in this game. The Beast of the Land has really solid hit points, and because you're small and it's medium, you can use that as your mount, using your 2 scimitars, and they're going to attack aside you. The specific phrasing of this is important, but I need to give respect to Kobold. You already did a really good deep dive into the Beastmaster, so I'm going to let you do the majority of this, and I'll point out where I'm focusing or where I'm changing things a little bit. I think you did a wonderful job, not just for Rangers, but for the Beastmaster as well, and I appreciate all of your content, so big shout out to that D&D YouTuber. So the Beast in combat is going to be dodging unless you spend an action, or you manage to sneak that little attack into the Beast Strike command, and that's how it's phrased. I believe you can use your attack and your bonus action to let the beast attack twice, and that's what the calculations are going to say. You only sacrifice one of your attacks. The scimitar has Nick, and so they're kind of like showing you through art that this character is going to be trading one of their Nick attacks, which is your dual weapon attack, your 2-weapon fighting attack, and that's going to be allowing you to command your beast to strike in combat. And it has that rider effect, where because it's on your turn, it could move in, you can make your attacks, then it makes its attack, it knocks an enemy prone, and then you're getting advantage on the rest of your attacks. A lot of synergy with your character right there. That's one of the reasons we chose a small character. And if you look at this art, I think it can be argued that the Spirit Tiger is so far in the back that they're kind of like shrunken, and it makes sense, even though this character isn't shown mounted on them right there. Also, it's almost trivial to replace your beast. Different phrases in here, like where it says, draws strength from your bond of nature. You may not need to feed or water your primal companion, and survival-wise, that's really beneficial. You can also just kind of vanish them when you're not going to use them, and then you need to take a long rest to summon them back. So a lot of interesting things going on there. It scales off of your wisdom. I think it's very important as well, and so we're going to be increasing this character's wisdom right after the dexterity, because the Beast of the Land the Beast of the Sea or the Beast of the Air is just a kind of like additional effect on top of your character who does the most of this. Level 4, we're going to get our ability score increase. You have a few options here. I think this will be a feat heavy character. It's not integral for a ranger to get their wisdom up to 20. There's no way you're going to boost it to 24 at level 20, so the rest of it just like a little bit of a rider. You could min-max it to improve your primal companion, but I really don't think it's the most important part. Feats I could suggest for it are Charger. Your primal companion could be your mount. They do the charging for you, and then you get that extra damage. Pretty cool. That's a nice thing there. Crossbow expert. This character is clearly not a crossbow expert. They're using the dual scimitars. Not beneficial. Dual wielder. Again, because this character has the dual scimitar picture, I don't think it's going to work. The Fey or Shadow Touched could actually be really good options to have. As a ranger, you don't have a lot of spell slots. Additionally, through Shadow Touched, you could get Wrathful Smite. It's a self-range spell. Still don't think it's going to come up way later on for the level 15 ability, but it does give your character a smite, and that could really massively improve your damage. However, it's also an Aasimar, so you have the ability for the frightened condition. Consider it. I don't think it's what we're going to go for today. You're going to have a pretty good wisdom, so Inspiring Leader might be an option later on. Mage Slayer could be really good. Your character has a lot of attacks, and that means that you can totally interrupt a spellcaster's concentration very easily. Medium Armor Master, small consideration for that it's like slight improve in armor class, but I think Mounted Combatant, likely choice for level 4. Other ones we'll see. Observant, your character has a good wisdom. You could have expertise in perception and investigation. Observant actually could lean to the character really well, but it's a later on thing. You want the good dexterity first. Or Warcaster. You actually cast spells. You actually maintain concentration on a lot of different things. So don't discount Warcaster. We're going to take Mounted Combatant here. It's going to pay off the most at low levels, and then at higher levels, it's going to keep your primal companion in fights a lot longer. Then level 5. Level 5, you get extra attack, which is going to massively improve your abilities in combat, but it's really just a combat thing. You also get your second level spells. In here, Cordon of Arrows is the ranger spell. It's mostly flavor. You can set up some traps, and it's kind of cool. It's a longer term payoff. You really need to think ahead to make this work. I do want to also say that rangers have access to the spike growth spell. You could have a good strength, and your mount is very fast. And at level 3, you probably could have improved the mobility in some way. So spike growth does exist as an option for your character to individually do crazy damage, but we're not focused on it. I just want to say it does exist. Level 6, you get roving. You become a little bit faster so long as you are wearing armor you're proficient in. They specifically exclude heavy armor, probably to make sure there's no weird interactions with other classes. You also get a climb speed and a swim speed. This makes mounted combat a little bit less attractive because your character can climb on his own. You can swim on your own. Maybe you will opt for the creature of the sea or the air more often, but still, the creature of the land is going to have the best combat benefits. It's the tankiest, but it's cool that your character can split off from them and climb up and down to take care of themselves. This already at level 6 is a pretty supreme character for mobility. At level 7, Exceptional Training is going to massively improve the survivability and abilities of your primal companion. When you take a bonus action to command your primal companion to take an action, you can also command it to dash, disengage, dodge, or help using its bonus action. With the limitations you get from the initial primal companion, this basically means a free dash, or dodge, or disengage, or help every round. So you could, on your turn, use a bonus action to command it to attack, knock your enemy prone. If it misses, that's going to help to give you advantage, and you can do whatever you need. If it hits, then it can still dash or disengage or dodge to kind of stay in there. It doesn't need the help anymore. Additionally, you can do force damage. This is just to keep your beast's damage competitive to get around the different types of resistances or even immunities you might see. And because force is so reliable, it's probably going to help if you know what you're facing. You need to make the decision, but you're going to know very quickly whether you need it or not. So level 7 is a valuable one just for action economy, especially because now your character can move 3 times, and then you can move off of your mount and get even further to really protect your ranger himself. Level 8, ability score increase. Whatever you didn't take before, maybe you're going to take Charger now, you could take one of the touch spells, or Mage Slayer, Warcaster. I haven't really decided what this character is taking, but you just want to increase the dexterity one way or another. Level 9. You get additional expertise. Actually quite useful to have on this type of character because you're subsisting out in the wild. You could probably take survival at this point and be very comfortable protecting yourself and others in alien environments even. You're probably at this point starting to touch into or really getting into extraplanar travel. Even though your character isn't a horizon walker, it could be coming up all the time. So expertise actually could make a big difference on the character. Additionally, at level 9, you're going to get 3rd level spells. Ones that come up here is Conjure Barrage. This is your new area of effect attack for the ranger. Pretty good. It's not going to be a fireball, but it's still nice. Elemental Weapon. I feel like in most campaigns, Elemental Weapon is going to be obsolete by the time you get here because you're going to have a magic weapon most likely. I think usually people get a magic weapon around level 3, usually by level 5, if not level 3. Otherwise you're in a very low fantasy type of world. And then Elemental Weapon is amazing. You're going to see that I'm not calculating the guarantee of magic weapons in any of my upcoming Excel dives, but Elemental Weapon is going to be ignored for that reason. In some cases, it's going to be really good. In other cases, it's going to be okay. It's nice that you can choose the element. That's the biggest thing. Lightning Arrow is compared to Conjure Barrage. This is your lightning versus fireball. So sometimes you're going to want one, sometimes you're going to want another. They are damage type locked. This is low enough in the ranger's career that maybe you could dip into sorcerer a little bit and change the spells. This is not that character. Interesting ideas for a future video perhaps. That's the thing with the ranger. It has a lot of sneaky things going on that I think you really need to think about it. I can't dive into this. I found so many rabbit holes, especially for the Beastmaster Ranger. I'm going to do what I can to cover all of them, but I admit I want you to comment in here what's something you'd want me to focus on more in the future, because I think the Ranger is a good class in 2014 or 2024, honestly. Level 10, Tireless. You can get temporary hit points numerous times per day. Pretty good. Just like buff your character up a little bit if you're doing that tanky build. Nobody else has a way to give you reliable temporary hit points. It's nice, honestly. Decrease exhaustion. It's a good thing they put this at level 10 because otherwise it actually could break. It could break a number of builds. Short rest, reduction of exhaustion. If you push your character, this could come up every session. If you're like most campaigns, it will almost never come up. I don't see a lot of exhaustion. I think I give a little bit of exhaustion out in my games, but usually around level 10, your character's not starving, your character's not going to be dehydrated, and if you want to get a long rest, you can probably teleport or somebody in your group can get you there so you can long rest. But if there's another thing going on, then decreased exhaustion can actually ruin some things. It's a good thing they put it so high up. Otherwise, I can see the famous Sorlock build would take Tireless and will have infinite spell slots after a week or so. Level 11, Bestial Fury. It's just going to give you either +1 attack or +2 attacks. That's it, Bestial Fury. And also, if you are using your Hunter's Mark, it's going to increase the damage by a Hunter's Mark. That's only once per combat. I really feel like Bestial Fury, like, it's strange that they made Hunter's Mark such a big part of the Ranger class, but they didn't make it non-concentration. They didn't make it so that the Primal Companion can use Hunter's Mark except for this feat at level 11. I'm interested to see how it shakes out. I have seen other people's math. Definitely at tier 1, Rangers have good damage. at tier 2, it looks like they're lagging behind a little bit compared to maybe even the Blade, Warlock, and the Monk, who in previous editions were really suffering at damage here. So like, it's a strange place. It's the beginning of tier 3, and Rangers might really be depending on this to increase their damage. I think it's fondly known that the Beastmaster is the single target damage dealer of the Ranger subclasses, but maybe we'll see something different as we go further on. Level 12, ability score increase. So we've got 4, 8, and now 12. This is what's going to put us onto our maximum dexterity. So take the appropriate feat to max out your dexterity. That's the biggest thing. Nothing's going to increase or solidify your damage or also your most common skill uses as much as that. Level 13, we got to 4th level spells, of which none of the 4th level spells are unique to druids, so it's hard to focus on any of them. So I'm going to come back to these when it comes up more often. Conjure with the Beings, very good spell. Dominate Beast comes up on occasion. Freedom of Movement is a good spell to have, but sometimes it doesn't do anything. Grasping Vine is an interesting one. Locate Creature, you might have a good enough survival that you don't need the spell, or maybe this is going to bridge that gap. Once you get into a town or a settlement, you can locate Creature for the final part. Stone Skin, pretty okay spell. Issue with the concentration, so you could use Stone Skin on your Primal Companion, and then it's worth a little bit more, or another player character. That puts you into the support role, and then you're really peppering the enemies with arrows. Or Summon Elemental has its place with bigger thinking. A lot of the other classes have magic circles, have planar binding, so the Ranger can help facilitate those things, but they're not going to summon the most powerful option there. So level 4 Ranger spells, little hit or miss. At least you've got higher spell levels, so it's going to be improving you no matter what. Level 13, Relentless Hunter. Now your Hunter's Mark is truly reliable. You can't get your concentration broken. That's nice. It's another reason why I argue that you can use it as your sustainable damage. Level 14, you get Nature's Veil and just your Wisdom modifier times per day. You give yourself invisibility for this turn and through the rest of next turn. So 2 turns of invisibility as a bonus action. Pretty good. It's a little late coming, but becoming straight up invisible can be really beneficial. You can use this to improve your initiative if you know what's going on. So try to use it creatively. It's not a spell, it's just a condition, but I'm only mentioning that because of what we're about to face. Level 15, Share Spells. The phrasing, when you cast a spell targeting yourself, you can also affect your Primal Companion Beast with the spell if the beast is within 30 feet of you. Now, all of a sudden, Conjure with the Beings is looking really good. Rules as written. This definitely creates 2 areas. I can see an argument that these are separate or the same. I go in that these are the same spell twice. You're channeling it through yourself and through your familiar. Flavor-wise, it makes sense to me, but I can understand why some game masters would let it trigger twice. It's also level 15. At level 15, it's reasonable to allow the Beastmaster Ranger to trigger this twice. It takes some finagling, and Kobold talks about this in greater detail. Plus, you can disengage as a bonus action. Pretty cool. Concentration, 10 minutes, you might be able to squeeze 2 combos out of this. This is what pushes the Beastmaster Ranger into ridiculousness at high levels. You already had Spike Growth, but this is that tier 3, tier 4 game breaker, and I kind of feel like Rangers deserve it. Let them have it if you get to this far. Other really good spells you can consider through multi-classing or other finagly ways are a topic I'm going to have to visit in another video. Level 16 is your last ASI. This character is going to get 4 ASIs, so that's going to be 3 towards their dexterity and then 1 towards their wisdom. You're not going to get a 20 wisdom. It's not really your character's role. Your expertise will give you a good enough perception. You don't need the 20 wisdom. Level 17, you get 5th level ranger spells. I just wanted to point out Conjure Volley might basically be your fireball at this point. Commune with Nature might give you extra spells as a ranger Beastmaster because you get one and it's ranged self. So therefore your Primal Companion gets questions too. Pretty wild. Steel Wind Strike, sorry, doesn't work. Swift Quiver is a trap spell, especially for the Beastmaster, unless for some reason you don't have your Primal Companion. This is going to do categorically less damage than Hunter's Mark would. Also level 17, you get Precise Hunter, and that's one reason why Swift Quiver is a trap. You want to get that advantage on your attack rolls marked by Hunter's Mark, plus the damage. Just, you don't get as much out of it, maybe free ammo, but it's such a high level. Level 18, you get Blind Sight. You never had to put feats into your Blind Sight. It just gives you the ability to ignore concealment. Pretty solid, but not game breaking. Level 19, Epic Boon. They suggest the boon of dimensional travel. I don't think you can go wrong with that, but because you could be mounted a lot of the time, I think Irresistible Offense makes more sense, so that you're going to be doing reliable damage through resistance. Level 20, just a nice little peak thing. You get that Hunter's Mark D10 instead of a D6. I don't think that's going to break the game anymore, but it does improve our numbers. Wow, there's a lot going on with the Ranger. If you really dive into the Beastmaster, it's one of the most complicated classes out there, so I hope you enjoyed it. You see, this is the attention to detail and the fun and the passion I put into all of my campaigns. So maybe if you want to consider joining them, especially my every other Monday Dragonlance campaign, I've got space for intrepid adventurers. Happy gaming to you.